Ajit, a comment on what do you think of real estate prices going forward in India in general?
Real estate prices in India. Well, you know, there is clearly a demand for real estate in India. Unlike the US, most people here don't have their first home. And their first home, if they have it, is really a very small little cubicle. So there certainly is, I think, need for expansion of the amount of square footage that people will be buying. I think the biggest problem with real estate, as we've seen, is that it's very closely connected to the politicians. Sam Zell, one of the most well-known investors in the real estate field, was down in India a few years ago, and I have said this before, that he was here, I think, in 2007, and he said there is no shortage of land in India. There's a shortage of zoned land. The difference between land and zoned land is what the BMC or a political body, basically rations or prevents. And as we saw in the license Raj days of industrial products, right? You had ambassador cars and you had Fiat cars. You had the worst cars in the world selling at one of the highest prices, for quality in the world. Same thing with real estate. You have limited amount of real estate being sold because the zoning rules are there to make the friends of the politicians and the politicians rich at your cost. So unless there's a revolution, that's not going to change. And I wrote an article on this also a few months ago that if you look at what happened after Lehman, as I mentioned, the international guys who were investing in real estate projects and backing real estate developers took money out of real estate in India. There should have been a massive crash, and there was. Bangalore, Chennai, Hyderabad, all corrected very sharply. Even South Bombay did begin to correct. Thane corrected, Powai corrected. They've all gone right back up. In many places, I mean, in South Bombay, property prices are pretty much back above a new peak. Not true in Bangalore, not true in Chennai, not true in Hyderabad, not true in Gurgaon. But true in many parts of the country, and they haven't fallen as much as they should have, nor are they down as long as they should be down. Because what happened was, again, this may be coincidence, but we had an election, as we all know, in March, April 2009. And from the last quarter, from October, November, December 2008, Jan, Feb 2009, bank lending to real estate companies went through the roof. So the public sector banks, who we have our deposits with, took our money, took our deposits, gave it as loans to the real estate companies so they could stay afloat, and they were not forced to sell their assets of real estate to you at a cheap price, because once the bank gave them money, they had the holding power, they had the staying power. So your money, your savings have gone to real estate companies so that property prices are high, so you are denied a home. Wonderful, isn't it? Maybe you should talk to your PSU bank branch manager and ask him, where are your deposits? To give you, it's there in the RBI. All this data is from the RBI. It's not fiction. So the answer is, where are real estate prices going? You tell me, is the political connection with real estate going to break or not? How many people in the room believe that the political connection to real estate companies is going to break? Please raise your hand. Not even one. Isn't that a damning statement? So that tells you where real estate prices are going to go. How many of you believe that the PSU banks will respond to your letter to the chairman saying, please don't give any loans to real estate companies? Raise your hands. Not even one. So that's your answer. I'd love it to go down. Anything in economics tells you it should go down. But the other problem, the political problem, tells you not going to happen.
And Bill, what's your take on the real estate market in the US and other parts of the world? Is there an investment opportunity for us in India to be investing there?
Investing in the US?
In real estate?
I don't think so. I think it's too early. We're in the beginning of a period of crisis. a period of adjustment, a period of what I call the Great Correction. And until we've gotten to the end of it, I don't think it's a good time to buy assets generally, because we don't know what they're worth. And if we follow the Japanese experience, we'll see property prices go down by 80%. So far they're down about 20%. I don't think they'll go down 80% in Florida or Nevada or California, but I think they'll go down a bit more. And I think we might have, there's no hurry. There's plenty of real estate in America. If I were you, I would just wait and see where it settles and then try to buy it.
Sticking with real estate, do you see any other part of the world where real estate seems to be attractive? Because now in India, we can take out a lot of money legally and invest in other parts of the world. So is there anything that you see on the real estate front?
None at all. The only exception, and this is a very particular exception, and probably no one would be interested, but actually in Ecuador, there probably is some good property price. And I sent one of our editors down there to look at it, and he said, boy, the beaches are great, it's fine, it's fun, but there's nobody down there, and what are you going to do? So it's a very long-term opportunity.
Ajit, on real estate itself, do you see an investment opportunity in real estate? And also, if you could talk about, do you see an opportunity in property you can rent out, or land, or farmland? You could talk on that, please.
I think there's a great trade of the decade here in real estate. We should ship all the politicians to the US because they want the prices to be high. They already own property. So let them go and control the zoning laws there and let them unzone the laws, unzone the lands, or you make the zoning a lot freer. No, but on a more serious note, I don't think real estate is to be considered as an investment per se. You know, we have this emotional attachment to buy property and to own property. And a lot of it is historical. Till the 1950s, till the 1960s, no one really owned property in India. You just rented it. It was always available on rent. And then rents started changing, the sort of rent laws changed, and the landlords stopped putting property on the market because they could not get it back, etc., etc. So the economic reason, around the world, the economic reason for owning real estate really is not there. And it's tax incentives. So whenever the government wants to step in and make something interesting, whether it's oil sands or solar energy or real estate, they give you tax breaks, right? So they give you a tax break and your mortgage is deductible, so therefore you start buying. There is a huge demand for real estate. There's a huge need for real estate. I'm not sure that necessarily translates into owning real estate. But given where the framework of laws is, given that landlords are reluctant to rent out properties, or given the fact that the government incentivizes us to buy properties, to borrow and buy properties, I think we'll have this sort of disconnect. If you look at any real estate that you all may have in your portfolios, or even the homes you live in, if you were to rent out your apartment, your rental yield would probably be 3%, right? 3%, your capital value and the rent that you get every year, 3%. What does that tell you? Does that sound like a good investment? Not at all. 3% in a country where your bank deposit is 4 or 5%, where HDFC will give you 7 8%, where the government 10-year bond is 8%. Doesn't make any sense at all. And in most economies, that's true. In most economies where the government has interfered with this process of the market by giving an incentive for something, in this case of buying property. So even in the US, I mean, even in Florida where I used to live and I have a condo there on the beach, which is fabulous and people live there. But even over there, the rental yields are about 3%. That's it. No reason to own it. Worst investment I ever made. But, the emotional factor. Oh yeah, we have our own house, and the kids will, our flat, the kids are there, it's ours. Okay, it's ours. And it cost me about 6, 7, 8% spread. I could have made a lot more money on the Indian stock market. Right? That's stupid property out there in Florida. So that's true for property in general. That I don't think it's an investment, it's an emotional baggage that we carry. And we all want to give our kids a property to live in. Because we know the problems that we've had acquiring our properties and how they've gone up in value. So we carry that baggage with us and say, let's save our kids from that. So it's really emotional. So think of it as a deep sunk hole where you just dump this money. Don't think of it as an asset allocation with the rate of return.